As many of you are aware, many of us took a congregational survey in November and December this past year, and this past Tuesday, the vestry we finally had a chance to have the results presented to us by a couple of consultants. And then this past Saturday, we had our vestry retreat where we sort of worked through what we had learned and thought and prayed about where it might be leading us. And the vestry will be doing a more comprehensive presentation of that, including some conversation and feedback a little later down the line. But today, I'm so excited by what we learned. And I feel such a sense of spirit that has come out of this process that I want to give you my initial take on it. Some basic takeaways and how I see God at work in what we have learned. So the first thing I want to say, and this is something that makes us very unique as a church, is that we have a very high level of satisfaction at this church and of energy. We are what they call a high morale church. I mean, respondents to these surveys just gave us extraordinarily high results, high marks, between 90 and 100% in hospitality, morale, conflict management, governance, and readiness for ministry. All 5 of those areas were over 90%. We also had very high marks in engagement in education and worship and music. And amazingly enough, as we were walking through these survey results, we came to a page where it identifies internal issues that need to be worked on to overcome those hurdles in order to really thrive and do the work that we're called to do as a church. And that page was blank. This survey didn't identify a single internal issue that we needed to work on. And the people doing the consultation, Ellen Eckervag and Susie Schaefer, both priests in our diocese who've been trained by Holy Cow Consulting, they kept saying, like, you guys don't understand. This is just phenomenal. It's so unusual. They were like, we want, can you teach this to other churches? Because we don't see these kind of numbers when we go around and do this work. So I just really want to highlight what a gift that is and what a gift we are to each other here, that we have so little tension and, conflict, and so much energy and care for one another. What it means about us is that we have a high opportunity for growth and impact and outward mission focus, because there's not much getting in the way of that. And the risk that it brings is the possibility of self-satisfaction and complacency. So it's important that we not rest on these laurels as we move forward as a church. Another wonderful thing that came out of this, which is a descriptor that may not be surprising to many of you who've been around a bit, is that we are highly adaptable and flexible in our worship style in particular, but in general, flexible, adaptable to change, and theologically progressive. Now, theologically progressive is not the same as politically progressive, although there may be some overlap. But what it really means is that we're not sort of a doctrinaire, conservative, evangelical kind of theology. It's a more open, exploring, searching theology. And the strength of that quality, we're called a magi church for being highly adaptable and theologically progressive. And the strength of that is this strong intellectual values, a comfort with journeying, and with uncertainty, a capability to embrace change, and to ally with the marginalized. The danger is that a church like that can lose its clarity and mission, can try to be too many things at once and lose a focus and an ability to really get around one or two things and make an impact. So this is all really great news. And I hope you're feeling, the positive, the enthusiasm here, which, by the way, is a word that comes from the Greek meaning to have God within, and theos, God within, enthusiasm. A couple of other key themes. We place a high priority on enlarging or improving, probably more improving our facilities compared to other churches. So one of the great things about the survey is that not only tells us what we tell ourselves, but it also compares us with many, many other churches that have done the survey. So we can see what makes us unique and not. And so it's not our highest priority to improve the facilities. It's like 8th out of 17. It's not in the top 5, but it's higher than many churches. So there is an energy and an importance for that, I think, that people feel. This will also be no surprise. There's a strong sense of acceptance here, of welcome and hospitality. And the story was told among vestry members that our coffee hours, which we're going to be able to start up again in March, yes, are places where we really connect with each other. We don't fill them with adult ed, or people don't grab coffee and a donut and head out the door for the most part. I mean, you can, of course, it's fine. But our coffee hours are places where we sit and really check in on each other. Also, a very high value here is making changes to attract families. That's a high priority for all groups. Although it's more important to older members and to frequent attenders than to other groups. Now, that is also true of almost every church. That comes up as the top priority for many, many, many churches. And so the important question for us about that is why? Do we want to bring in families so that we can have more people on the pledging rolls and go back to the days of the 60s and 70s when there were so many kids running around, sort of a nostalgia thing? Or do we want to do it because we want to invite people into our sense of mission and invite people into this community of healing and love that they might benefit from it? So those are important things that we'll be talking more about. A few challenges that came up. All the ratings were 76% or above, most above 90, except for one, spiritual vitality. And when we looked at the questions that measured that rating, they seemed to be about your individual sense of spirituality in your daily life and how much it means to you or matters to you. So the low score on that could be because of pandemic stuff and people just kind of feeling not that great, or it might be for other reasons. So we're going to have some more conversation about that too. As I said before, we have the challenge of perhaps a tendency to get scattered and not focused, a danger of complacency. And then one other thing that I thought was really significant. A fair number of our respondents feel that they have more to give the church, but they don't know how. That tells me there's an untapped energy and maybe a need for us to figure out ways to open those doors for people to express their sense of mission and ministry through our church. There's one other unique theme that I saved till the end because it's particularly close to my heart and also makes us unusual as a church. We place a very high priority on expanding our outreach to those on the margins of society. That's one of the core things that people said they want to see the church put more energy into. This is more true in our church of younger people under 35 and of infrequent attenders, which to me says it's also an area that if we step into that, might bring in more of those groups, more people on the outside. So we just had a lot of wonderful things to think about, to wrestle with, and we will come back to the congregation to ask some questions about some of these results and get further conversation and input on what kind of goals we want to set around this. But I just want to say, to sort of tie this into the spiritual end of it, how fitting is it that this theme in particular, expanding outreach to those on the margins, is revealed to us during this week that our lectionary has us in Jesus's sermon on the plain in Luke. We began the sermon last week in our reading, and we're moving ahead from that point this week. I mean, Jesus's woes and the blessings and woes from last week, they really capture that danger of complacency. Woe to you who are rich. Woe to you who are full now. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Can't sit on those laurels. And there's this hunger in the church to minister to the marginalized, which is a core theme in Luke in particular. Blessed are you who are poor. Blessed are you who are hungry. Blessed are you when people hate, exclude, revile, and defame you, which are the kinds of experiences we want to reach out and help to heal. Love your enemies, Jesus says in today's section. Do to others what you would have them do to you. Don't judge or condemn. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. This image of abundance. That measure that you give will be the measure that you get back. The vestry and I sense in this survey that God is calling us to step more deeply into that calling, even as we need to make sure we steward our resources to find something that is sustainable for us. And so we've set a goal for this year to identify and find a need in the community that we can meet that is meaningful, visible, and sustainable. More later, but that's the initial take. Bless you all. Amen.